this is a week that you've got to give the advantage to the opposition as far as coaching staff against coaching staff. Do you not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is, one of the great coaches of the generation. So that's not an insult, even though people will take it as an insult. But it doesn't mean you can't win the game.
Is that a good sign or a bad sign for the game on Sunday? I'm not sure.
Nah, it happens. It's a sense of urgency. That's what it means.
You got a sense of urgency? The biggest and most important question is, do the Eagles have a sense of urgency coming into this game?
Well, they ought to.
Against the Saints.
For a number of reasons. One, we've talked about, getting a win at Lincoln Financial Field. I mean, there's an urgency to that, to the point that Nick Sirianni, as I mentioned, brought it up right after winning in Denver. He knows he's got to get that monkey off his back. And even more so, and you saw it again last night, not that it's a big deal, but New England beating Atlanta and thumping Atlanta is even more good news for the other teams at the back end of the NFC playoff picture, which is basically everybody but Detroit. And that helps the Eagles as well. So good opportunity to knock back one of those other teams that the Eagles will be fighting with, and that's the New Orleans Saints.
Not to get too far afield right off the top, but since you went there, can I ask you a question? I know you're busy on Sundays. You're kind of busy. Yeah, you're at the Eagle games and reporting absolutely everything. I'm here at home. I'm on the air for the back end of the Sunday action on CBS Sports Radio, but I'm jumping around watching games all over the place in the early window. How have the Falcons won games this year?
I
go back to week one with the Eagles beating the snot out of them. I watched a good portion of the Cowboys beating them down last week. Last night, the Patriots just completely dominated. How are they even in the conversation as a playoff
team? It's kind of amazing. I mean, when we get to watch them standalone game like last night, obviously week one with the Eagles, I mean, they've been awful. They've been just terrible. A terrible offensive line, which I talk about, and they've had that for years, and they can't block anybody, and Arthur Smith looks just overmatched without Derrick Henry to lean on. You don't have Derrick Henry, they have no running game whatsoever. So, well, that kind of tells you the NFL, though. I mean, it's built on parity. It's been built on parity since Pete Rozelle. If you have a good week, you can look really good. You have a bad week, you can look really bad, and that's why we always bring up Jalen Hurts. You don't have to say Jalen Hurts is the answer after one game in Denver. You don't have to say he's not the answer after one game against Kansas City and Tampa Bay. You don't have to do it, but everybody does it.
A lot of people do, and here's where we tie it into the Eagle game. The Falcons just beat the Saints a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you how bad the Atlanta Falcons look to me. My read on the Atlanta Falcons, my handicapping of the Atlanta Falcons is they're pretty bad. They're not a good football team, yet somehow this not that good a football team beat the New Orleans Saints. So it does give Eagle fans hopes for coming into this matchup against the Saints, who are a game over 500, whereas the Eagles are 2 games below 500. But on any given day, John, any team can show up and play to whatever level they happen to play to that day.
Yeah, I mean, look at Denver. Look at Denver against Dallas. In Dallas, they were lights out. Look at Denver against the Eagles at home. They were pitiful. And that's the thing about this league. If you start feeling yourself, if you start smelling yourself, if you start believing the pats on the back, you're going to get punched in the face. So coaches often talk about, it's easy to talk about handling adversity in the way people think of adversity, problems and issues and all things like that. But a lot of times handling success is even harder to keep yourself focused and to keep yourself. And that's why the good teams are the good teams, right? Consistency for the most part. That's what separates the good teams from the 8-8 now, 8-9, 9-8 teams. That's the difference. That's it. It's basically 2 or 3 players and that focus and the ability to handle the week-to-week grind.
All right, Johnny Mac. Yesterday, a pretty good day from practice as far as
Good
news
day.
goes.
Good day.
How much did you guys get a chance to watch?
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch anything for the reasons we discussed yesterday, which worked out well because I was on the air too late, so I couldn't get down there for testing. But just from talking to everybody else and texting everybody else, same thing as kind of last week. The Eagles have been managing this pretty well from a health standpoint. I think the bigger news comes from New Orleans, and we'll get to talk about that hopefully in the second hour. No Alvin Kamara. They tried him at practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday. Those big bookend tackles, who I think are the best bookend tackles in the NFL, Teron Armstead, Ryan Ramczyk, did not practice again. We'll talk about it. If they don't have those guys on the field, I'm not only saying the Eagles win the game, I'm saying the Eagles should win the game. They should win the game.
Yeah, injury situation will certainly have an impact on the outcome of this game. The good news on the Eagles side was the fact that Dallas Goedert made it back out onto the practice field. He was a major question mark and still is a question mark, just a one that is leaning toward a more positive answer as of right now. And Miles Sanders got some reps out there on the field, actually moving around, not just stretching, carrying the football. That the coach gave us some insight as to how he views Miles Sanders in the day prior, but actually getting him back out there on the field is a very good sign, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, and the whole roster, the whole available roster, obviously practice in some form. And yeah, it's pretty evident that Miles is going to play. So it comes down to how are they going to use him. And with Dallas Goedert, a little bit ippier. I would say if you compare to last week with Josh Sweat, not quite as advanced as he is. Josh was able to do some limited things and be back on the practice field Wednesday of last week and got through the concussion protocol. Dallas wasn't able to do that. He seems to be like a day behind. So Saturday's the day. That would be when you pass the protocol. Got to keep an eye on that, and we'll see if Dallas Goedert's able to go. But those concussions are always, those are just, those are tough because you're talking about independent neurologists and they have to clear you. So nobody knows, but it's certainly better than not being on the field.
Exactly right. So that from a practice standpoint, we'll do anything to analyze the game. Whatever analytics you can get on, and you can put whatever weight you want on the analytics. Analytically speaking, the Eagles had a much better practice day. They got important and key members back out there, as limited as they may have been, and the Saints did not, missing a couple of key contributors. And yes, we're hoping Mike Haas, the play-by-play guy of the Saints, joins us today. We miscommunication yesterday. He didn't join us, but he said he will make that same good effort, an above and beyond effort, to get on today's show, and maybe he'll be able to give us some more info on the Saints. All right, J Mac, the matchup is Saints and Eagles. We went yesterday through some of the historical perspective, the fact that Sean Payton has been an equal opportunity Eagle abuser, beating Andy Reid, beating Chip Kelly, beating Doug Peterson. He gets his first shot at Nick Sirianni, who we've been singing the praises of pretty good the last couple of weeks here in Philadelphia. And well, we should, because he's done a nice job. But he's also matched up against a couple of veteran coaches, guys who already won the Super Bowl, and he hasn't been able to break through there yet. He's been very good at beating fellow young in their career coaches so far. This is a game between the Eagles and the Saints. But don't kid yourself. Every single week in the NFL, it's a matchup between the two coaching staffs. Even though I'm pretty pumped up by what Nick Sirianni has done and the momentum he's built over the course of this year, this is a week that you've got to give the advantage to the opposition as far as coaching staff against coaching staff. Do you not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is, one of the great coaches of the generation. So that's not an insult, even though people will take it as an insult. But it doesn't mean you can't win the game. I just talked about, it doesn't matter who you have coaching. If you don't have your best players, you're going to be up against it in the NFL. So it's still about talent first. And the Saints have a lot of issues starting at the quarterback position. But if they don't have, an Alvin Kamara, if they don't have a Teron Armstead who hasn't been playing, if they don't have Ryan Ramczyk, I mean, that's, you saw Denver, what happened to Denver when they lost two competent offensive tackles. Now you lose two all-pro level offensive tackles. I mean, that's how good those guys are. That's the best tandem in the league, in my estimation. You saw last night, if you watched the game, look, Matthew Judon is having a great year, but he's not Deacon Jones. He looked like Deacon Jones last night. They couldn't block him. I say it all the time. People probably get tired of it. If you can't block people in this league, you can't play offense. It's one of the reasons why I had a little bit more optimism to the Eagles than other people did before the season started because of their offensive line. Conversely, if you have a bad offensive line, if you have an injured offensive line, if you have a messed up offensive line, again, Falcons prove it again. There's 150 million examples. If you can't block people in this league, you can't play offense. And if you can't play offense, even with Sean Payton, maybe the best play caller of his generation, you can't block people. You can't call great plays. Can't do it.
Agreed. But using the Patriot game last night as an example, and Matthew Judon and the game he had, and a comparison to whatever great pass rusher you want to bring to the table, who's going to get that done for the Eagles on the outside this week? There is a step down if the the Saints are going to their backup tackles. That's for sure. But somebody still has to be able to make the play for the Birds. Who is that at defensive end? Or if
you know who it is, and you've shut the book on him, but he made some plays last week against bad.
He made 8 plays last week.
In between the knucklehead plays, and Josh Sweat is still out there as well, and you can do some different things. No, you don't have a player playing to the level of Matthew Judon this season, certainly. But the point isn't about who you have. The point is about who they have. And if you have, guess what? If you have Teron Armstead at 100% and Ryan Ramczyk at 100%, forget about it. Eagles aren't getting anywhere near Trevor Siemian on the outside. Point is, they don't have those guys, and they're probably not going to. Now, I'm not going to say they don't have them. We'll see with Mike. Hopefully, but when you don't practice on Wednesday, Thursday, these are veteran players. I would say Ramczyk's closer. They might say, all right, let's get him through the week and try to get him in the game. You see it all the time with the Eagles and Fletcher Cox and players like that. Mm-hmm. But if they don't have them, doesn't matter. I mean, they're the ones with the issue, not you. They're the ones with the issue.
No, I would say the Eagles still have an issue. You and I disagree on
you closed the book. We talk all the time. You have slammed the book shut.
You continued to open it by saying Derek Barnett made plays. He made one play. He made one play.
James Hurst, who was a guard, would be playing left tackle. The right tackle would be a 6th-round pick this year. I mean, a rookie 6th-round pick. No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not saying Derek Barnett's great. I think he's better than you will think he's better. I think, that's difficult not to be better than you think he is. But I'm not saying he's a great player. I'm saying they're really up against it. And average players can take advantage. Average NFL defensive ends can take advantage of that type of situation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, and I'm saying 2 sacks this week. I'll take the under for Derek Barnett. You ready to take the over?
No, I'm not ready to take the over on 2, probably on anybody. That's a lot of sacks in this league, with the exception of the Miles Garretts of the world.
Sack and a half. You ready to take the over?
No, still not. Okay. Again, if it's Miles Garrett, yes. If it's Aaron Donald, playing against a rookie inside, yes. But there aren't a lot of those guys. That's a big
So,
number
so if he
in this
gets,
league.
so if he gets another sack like he did last week 1, he'll beat you and I by 1 apiece.
Well, if he gets a sack, if he gets a tackle for loss, if he creates pressures, I mean, hurries and pressures, I've been saying it forever, are more important to me than sacks anyway. Consistent pressure on the quarterback. Does he get the quarterback off the spots? All that kind of stuff plays into it. I just, to go in and say, okay, you've closed the book on Derek Barnett. And by the way, he's not going to be here next year. So if you want to close it from that perspective, I
That's
get
one
it.
of the reasons why I'm closing it, and I'm happy for it.
But that's fine. But what I'm saying is on a particular game day, to say, Derek Barnett as a player can't take advantage of deep reserves who aren't very good, that's where we go off in different directions.
And we'll not know how it plays itself out till Sunday arrives. The one thing that I will give the Eagles, Trevor Siemian he's not a sitting duck, but he's not Jalen Hurts either. It's not like he's going to be able to extend pockets and get outside and turn it upfield and turn what looks like a loss into a 14, 15-yard gain like Jalen Hurts can. That's one of Jalen Hurts' biggest strengths, at least as far as I'm concerned. That's not Trevor Siemian. Now, I think he's a pretty smart quarterback. He doesn't get sacked all that much. He's going to get rid of the football. He's going to get it out of there. He might not complete a high percentage of his passes because he's going to throw the ball away and or put it in a spot where only his guy can catch it and can't get picked off. Those passes end up incomplete. That's what I think you're going to see from Trevor Siemian. I don't think he's going to pick the Eagles apart, but I don't think he's going to blow up on the Eagles either. So if you're right about the pressures and getting to him and getting the ball out of his hands, Trevor Siemian will get it out of his hands before he gets sacked.
Well, and then you got to look at the other end. And the same type of thing with the Saints. Unfortunately for them, there's no Michael Thomas. If Michael Thomas is out there, everything kind of falls into place. They've been leaning on guys like Marquez Callaway, and we've talked about Deontay Harris a lot. He's sort of a gimmick player. He's played 175 snaps all year. Traquan Smith is back. They're leaning on him. So they don't have They don't have both ends of the equation. They not only don't have Drew Brees, they don't have the playmakers they once had either. So it's kind of weird how this team has shifted from, let's face it, you think about Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Hall of Fame quarterback. Again, a lot of people consider this the best play caller of the generation. You think offense. And when they had really deep runs, when they won the Super Bowl, the defense was kind of middle of the road, not great, but as long as they had a competent defense. Now it's the exact opposite. Now their defense carries them, and they have difference makers at every level. They're really good on defense. Really good. Starts with Cam Jordan, everybody knows, but Marcus Davenport, who they drafted a couple of years ago, is now coming on at least as a pass rusher. They have a big defensive tackle and Shy Tuttle, who stops the run. They have great linebackers and Demario Davis. You know him as an ex-Jet.
Oh, yeah.
So aggressive. Pete Werner is a great draft pick. And then the secondary, that secondary is as talented as you'll see with Marshawn Lattimore and our old buddy Malcolm Jenkins, and also Marcus Williams, who, people remember for blowing the big play against Stephon Diggs, but he's turned into a great safety. They're really good. They're really talented on defense.
And unbelievably so. They have linebackers that actually make big plays. A foreign concept.
I love Demario Davis.
Yeah,
I love him.
So do I, even though he is an ex-Jet and still should be wearing Jet green. It's a foreign concept here in Philadelphia to actually have linebackers who can make big plays for you. The Saints have them. The Eagles don't think that's a necessity in defense.
But it's been better. It's been better with TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor. It's been a lot better. But I would say, and I probably said it earlier in the week, I think the Saints have the most physical linebacker in football in Demario Davis and the most physical safety in football in Malcolm Jenkins. They will They will punch you in the face, as they say. And the Eagles made a big thing out of the physicality they had against Denver, and rightfully so, because they beat up the Broncos. It's going to be much more difficult against this defense.
Sounds like the kind of game Philadelphia fans like, a punch them in the mouth type game going both ways. Coming up on Sunday. All right, coming up next with us here on Birds 365, it's Game Day Kratz. We usually punch up Ed Kratz on Fridays, get his take on the upcoming game before it is played. We will do so again here. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys.